I moved into what I thought was just another quiet suburban neighborhood until I met Karen. She's the kind of woman who thinks she runs the entire block, complete with her fake HOA rules and wannabe cops patrolling like they own the place. Too bad she had no idea who she was messing with. I'm an FBI agent who doesn't take threats lightly. But what happened next? Let's just say things got a lot more intense than she bargained for. Before we dive in, let me know where you're watching from today. I woke up to a fierce pounding on my door, so loud that my windows seemed to rattle. Still half asleep, I hurried to the front hall, thinking someone might be in trouble. Through the peephole, I saw two people wearing matching uniforms with bright letters that read HOA Police. Their badges looked cheap, like something from a party store, but they stood tall and glared at me with stern faces. My heart thumped faster than it should at dawn. I opened the door a crack and said, "Can I help you?" The taller officer, a man with a sharp jaw, pointed at me. "We're here on official business," he declared. "Your property has multiple violations, and we need to inspect your garage." I felt a surge of frustration. "What are you talking about? There's nothing in my garage that breaks any rules." The shorter officer, a woman with narrow eyes, shot back, "Don't make this harder. We have authority from the HOA." I noticed they did not mention warrants or real police involvement. In a calm voice I said, "I'm an FBI agent. If you have real cause, show me proper papers." That made the tall one smirk. "Being FBI doesn't excuse you from neighborhood codes." Just then I saw movement behind them. Karen, my neighbor, peered over their shoulders with a smug grin. She had always been loud and pushy, complaining about every small thing on our block. I knew right away she must have staged this little show, and my gut twisted with worry. Stepping onto my porch, I kept my voice steady. "Karen, what's going on here?" She lifted her chin. "Oh, I'm just making sure the rules are followed," she said, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "You can't claim special treatment because of your job." The fake officers nodded. "We have reports of strange activity in your garage," said the woman officer. I let out a tense laugh. "Strange activity? Like what?" Karen shrugged. "I heard noises late at night. Could be anything. You might be storing hazardous materials, or maybe you're plotting something." My jaw tightened. "That's nonsense, and you know it. If there's a real problem, I'll cooperate. But this is harassment." The tall officer pulled out a piece of paper that looked like a typed form. There was no seal, no signature, just words that said I was under investigation by the HOA police. I tried to stay calm. "That's not an official document. You two have no right to barge in." Karen let out a dramatic sigh. "You sure you want to argue? I can add your refusal to the list of violations." I glared at her. "Since when does the HOA send out its own police force? I've lived here long enough to know we only have volunteers who check on yards and paint colors." The shorter officer flashed a plastic-looking badge in my face. "We have new powers now. Step aside." I shook my head. "Number. Unless you come back with real law enforcement and a valid warrant, you're not entering my home." The man took a step forward. "Don't test us." I felt my anger spike, but I forced it down. As an FBI agent, I knew better than to start a physical argument on my porch. Instead, I crossed my arms. "If you try to come in here, you'll be the ones facing charges." Karen smirked again. "You can't threaten us. Everybody on this street knows you think you're above the rules." Suddenly my phone buzzed in my pocket. Glancing at the screen, I saw my boss's name flashing. My stomach tightened. I had never gotten a call from him so early. "One moment," I told the fake officers, stepping back into my entryway. The tall man shouted after me, "We're not done here." Ignoring him, I answered the call. My boss's voice sounded strained. "Get to the office right now. We have a problem." My heart sank. "Is this about some complaint against me?" There was a pause, then he said, "I'll explain in person." I hung up and walked back to the door. The two fake cops were still there, with Karen towering behind them like she owned the place. "I have to go," I said. "I'll deal with this later." The woman officer shook her head. "If you leave, we'll mark you as uncooperative." Karen stepped closer, her gaze cold. "You want your neighbors to see you run away?" I sighed. "Karen, this is ridiculous. You know you can't arrest me." She tilted her head. "I'm not arresting you. They are, and I'm not stopping them." The male officer raised a pair of plastic zip ties as if he planned to cuff me. I had to remind myself to keep my cool. "Put those down," I said. Impersonating a law officer is a crime. You know that, right? The woman officer grabbed her radio, but I doubted it actually connected to any real dispatch. Karen clucked her tongue. You might want to listen. They have the power to write you up. My jaw clenched. A fake citation means nothing. The tall man waved the zip ties in my face. You want to find out if these are fake too? At that moment, I realized how far this had gone. They wanted to push me into doing something rash. It was a setup, plain and simple. I forced myself to stand down, taking a slow breath. Look, I said, I'm stepping away to handle an urgent matter at my real job. You all need to leave my property. Karen shrugged. We'll be watching. The HOA has eyes. That made me bark out a laugh. The real HOA might, but you sure aren't it? The male officer pressed his lips into a thin line. We'll give you one last warning. Then he glanced at Karen, who nodded. If you don't cooperate, we'll recommend disciplinary action. I glared at them. Recommend it to whoever you want. Now get off my porch. They backed away, but not before the woman snapped a photo of me with her phone. Karen gave me a mocking smile. Smile for the records. My stomach churned. I waited for them to step off my lawn, then slammed the door. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my boss. Hurry! My whole body felt tight, like a spring about to snap. This was exactly what I didn't need, especially if something serious was happening at the bureau. Yet these phony officers had thrown my morning into chaos, and Karen's grin still lingered in my mind. It took me 10 minutes to calm down before I finally grabbed my keys and headed out. The fake cruiser was parked at the end of the street, its lights off. I noticed Karen's car was gone, which meant she might be prowling around elsewhere, possibly telling neighbors a twisted version of the story. I drove away trying to steady my breathing. My boss's tone on the phone had sounded dire, and that rattled me even more than Karen's antics. As I pulled onto the main road, I caught myself checking the mirror again and again, half expecting that HOA police car to follow me, but there was no sign of them. Still, I felt trapped between two nightmares, the phony cops who wanted to corner me at home, and something big looming at work. I reached the FBI field office and headed inside. My boss stood in the hallway, looking stiff and anxious. You took your sweet time, he snapped, then waved me into his office. I shut the door behind us, my heart in my throat. He demanded to know why local authorities were complaining about my threatening behavior. I explained the situation, emphasizing how those officers had no real badges and that Karen was behind it. He stared at me for a long moment. Well, we have a problem, he said. Higher-ups have flagged this. There's talk of misconduct, and I can't protect you if it escalates. My stomach dropped. But I'm innocent, I insisted. Someone's framing me, or at least trying to push me out. He rubbed his eyes. I don't care if they're real cops or not. There's paperwork claiming you resisted a lawful inspection. It's all nonsense, but it's on my desk now. I felt a flush of anger rising up my neck. Karen must have sent it. She's got some crazy plan. He let out a slow sigh. Like I said, I can't do much if official complaints keep coming. Keep your cool. Prove they're fake. Otherwise, you'll be dealing with an internal review. Panic flared, but I nodded, knowing there was no quick fix. As I left his office, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from a blocked number. Better watch your step. We know who you are. I nearly crushed my phone in my hand. These people were trying to destroy my life, and now they had found a way to make it look official. I trudged through the day, haunted by the morning's clash and the sinking feeling that Karen had taken her petty rules to a sick new level. Even some of my coworkers shot me strange looks, like they'd already heard rumors. Before I left for home, I stopped by the break room, where an agent named Davis pulled me aside. Got a second? He asked quietly. Sure, I said. He glanced around, checking if anyone was listening. I overheard something in passing. Word is you're on thin ice. You might want to watch your back. My chest tightened. You mean watch my back here or in my neighborhood? Davis frowned. Both, maybe. And I'd keep an eye on that Karen lady. She's bragging about getting you in trouble. By the time I left the building, the sun was sinking low in the sky. I drove home with my nerves on edge, wondering if those fake officers would be on my street again. When I turned onto my block, sure enough, I saw a strange SUV parked near my house. Its tinted windows made me shiver. I parked, got out, and eyed the SUV, but the engine was off and nobody stepped out. Keeping my breathing steady, I hurried inside, locked the door, and drew the curtains. Almost right away, my phone dinged with an email notification. It was from the Bureau's internal affairs team, asking me to explain my morning altercation with the local security detail. I dropped onto my sofa in a daze. Karen had found a way to link her phony patrol with real authorities, and now my job was on the line. Even though the so-called HOA officers had left my house earlier, they still lurked in my neighborhood, and the Bureau was pressing me for answers. With Karen stirring up trouble at every turn, I sensed that the storm around me was only getting stronger, and I had no clue how far her scheme would reach. I got home later that day and saw the same fake HOA police cruiser idling at the end of my street. My pulse sped up as I parked, but I forced myself to act normal. Once inside, I peeked through the blinds. The car stayed put, like it was daring me to confront it again. I checked my messages, hoping for a response from the real HOA or some sign that Karen's hoax was collapsing. Instead, I found nothing but a bounced email and a threatening voicemail. The muffled voice warned, "We know you're digging. Back off, or this gets worse." That single line told me Karen wasn't alone in this plan. The next day I tried calling the official HOA number listed on an old newsletter, but my call went straight to a recorded message about technical difficulties. Frustrated, I fired off an email titled "Urgent, Possible Impersonation," only to have it bounce back as undeliverable. I even checked the neighborhood website. It showed out-of-date information and no mention of any new security measures. It felt like Karen had shut down every communication channel, leaving me with no official recourse. I decided to reach out to a local police contact named Alvarez, a no-nonsense officer who sometimes traded intel with the Bureau. Over the phone, I summarized the situation: fake badges, bogus citations, and a neighbor leading